I call Julianne Genter.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Tēnā koutou e te whare. The Green Party will be supporting this bill as it does take a good step in the direction of making Aotearoa the sort of country that we are working for it to be, which is a place where we look after our precious natural environment, but most importantly, we empower and protect our people to live good lives. And I think this bill, interestingly, as it has the support of so many different parties across the House, really is a perfect example of a principle that government is there to support people when they are doing something to help others in our society. Because we are all in this together. We often rely on help from others. And in the case of needing an organ, that is incredibly true. And it's fantastic that the government can be there to help support people who are willing to make that sacrifice of giving most likely a kidney, although who knows with advances in medical technology, to someone else to enable them to live a healthier and longer life. The Compensation for Live Organ Donors Bill, as it's now called, went through the Select Committee process some time ago, and I wasn't there to be there. I wasn't there to hear the submissions, but there were 125 submissions to the Select Committee, all generally in favor of the principle of providing financial assistance or compensation to live organ donors. There were a variety of improvements that were mentioned at the Select Committee, some of which were incorporated in the final bill. And the most common suggestion was to change it from 80% of one's income to 100%, so it was full compensation for the time during which someone might be undergoing the procedure, the surgical procedure, and recovering from that procedure. There are, of course, other issues related to organ donation that aren't addressed by this bill. The Green Party would like to see it possible for there to be a greater encouragement for people to sign up to be organ donors when they've encountered an accident, a very unfortunate crash, say, or something like that, which would mean that they wouldn't be live organ donors. I myself renewed my driver's license this week for the first time in 10 years and ticked the box again to be an organ donor, should I be in that unfortunate circumstance. And that's something that has always been championed in my family, personally, coming from a medical family, because we understand, my parents impressed upon me the importance of being an organ donor if you are in that unfortunate circumstance, because we want, above all, to use resources as well as we can while we're on this planet, and to enable others to do the same. So we congratulate the member who was lucky enough to have his bill drawn from the ballot, Chris Bishop. Excellent initiative. It's great to see such a constructive piece of legislation coming from the members' ballots from the government members, which is not always the case. And it is fantastic that this bill has achieved such great support across all parties in this House. It is something that we are unfortunately probably going to need even more in the future, because we have the rising problem of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, which is going to put pressure on and increase the demand, particularly for kidneys. And there are other ways that the government could be addressing the risk presented by the rise in chronic disease, in particular type 2 diabetes. I think I read the astonishing figure of 1 out of 3 New Zealanders being either diabetic or pre-diabetic, which is a ticking time bomb, and is something that we're going to have to take urgent action on if we want to avoid the long-term cost to the health system and want to avoid degraded quality of life for so many New Zealanders. And as I was saying before about this particular bill, which offers financial assistance and compensation to people who are willing to make that sacrifice of donating an organ, that recognizes the principle and role for government to support people who are spending their time doing something for others, I think there's also the recognition that we are all in this together, and there's an important role for government to play in empowering and protecting citizens, particularly young people, in the face of increasing pressure and advertising around things like sugary drinks. It's a perfect example of where the whole community is worse off because of the prevalence of sugary drinks, and there's an important role to play for the government to play, for example, in taxing sugary drinks, and using that revenue to fund health promotion. There's an important role for government to play as it designs our transport systems in our towns and cities and making it safer and easier for kids to walk and cycle to school. All of that will go a long way to reducing the burden and the costs of diabetes in New Zealand. And it's something that I think this government wants to do the right thing. They want to reduce obesity and chronic diseases related to childhood obesity like type 2 diabetes. But if we look at their actual childhood obesity action plan, there's nothing in it that's going to substantially change the trajectory, because it's relying on identifying kids who are at risk and giving them some nutritional advice. But how is that going to help if they've got sugary drinks and junk food in the tuck shop at school? How is that going to help if their parents have to drive them 2 kilometers to school because it's not safe to walk and cycle? So there's all these ways in which government could be taking proactive action to protect and empower citizens to ensure that we all look after each other and we all do well. That is what the Green Party would like to see in Aotearoa.
I call Ria